Welcome to the Straight Red Car. Today, Brett and I are going to take on a number of issues, but we're going to start out with the big one everybody is talking about because Landon Donovan is headed back to Everton. And I think the first question I had, Brett, is I wasn't sure what the point of going back to Everton, was for a couple of months. Well, I guess it would end, February 25th, which would be the last game he could play. I understood it last time because he was prepping for the World Cup, but I'm not sure what he gets out of going back to Everton now. I just don't get it.
Well, my guess would be to stay sharp for the next upcoming MLS season. On top of that, Klinsmann did come out and say that he wants his teams, his MLS players to go out and play more, train more throughout the year, especially during the off season.
Yeah.
So when was the last time Donovan played with the U.S.? There's a number of reasons why he hasn't been included the last couple of camps, but I think the last time he played was against Costa Rica.
Yeah.
That was a while ago. Obviously he's not he's not concerned about losing his spot with the U.S. national team. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But he hasn't really played that much with them. Maybe going to Everton is just another way to get back on the horse, get sharp again.
Yeah.
He's got some time off. I know a lot of the preseasons with MLS teams are actually starting towards the end of January. They're actually starting the camps a lot earlier, which is cool. But that's all I see in this.
Yeah, I guess there are a few things for me. One, you do hear that Landon really loved playing for Everton the last time he was there. He loved the fans. He loved the notoriety. And, of course, the fans loved him back. And, of course, they've been itching to get him back to Everton. And every time the rumor comes up, like last season when he didn't go, but, it's still in the papers. You go to Liverpool papers, and it was in there. If you're an Everton fan, you had warm feelings. And in fact, they chanted, he must stay, right? He must stay. So it surely isn't the fact that maybe he wants to go back to kick Brad Friedel in his tiny danglers for the comments he made regarding him taking the easy route out, but because that would be too vindictive. But I don't see because he's. Here's the thing. I think he's lost a step, right? And what he brought to Everton last time is when he played out wide, he, more than a lot of other, midfielders, left or right midfielders for Everton, he really played out wide. And he stretched the field for them. And we all remember him burning Ashley Cole up and down the line last season. I don't know if they're going to get that from him this season because I think he's lost a step. But I think he can play in a lot of other different places. In fact, they played him in other places. They played him in the central midfield. They played him as a reserve striker. They played him as a CAM. They played him wherever they needed him. And I think, if I'm David Moyes and I'm Everton, I'm thinking where they are right now, which is, they're not in relegation, in the relegation zone. But, there's still a threat there. They're nowhere clear at this point. And I think there was an article on MLSsoccer.net. They pointed out that, with Landon Donovan, Everton, they were much more productive. You just look at the stats. They were a better team. They went on a big run while he was there. Now, can you attribute that all to Landon Donovan? No, I don't think you can. I think sometimes that's just good fortune as well. But he did play a significant role while he was there.
And that could be the case right there. Is the role that he played made them a lot better and a lot more productive. Not necessarily saying that he brought the productivity, although he did do a pretty decent job of it. But as you said, just opening up the field, stretching out the defense, opened a lot more space for the team. I think I don't necessarily believe that he's lost his step per se. I think he plays a different role with LA and also with the U.S. national team. But I think if you put him on the side and you play him as a true winger, I think he'll still have the pace to cause a lot of problems, especially in EPL.
Yeah, I know. I think he still has the pace. I just don't think he's quite as fast as he was a couple seasons ago. But that's just me. That's just something that I've noticed. And, it could be that the Landon Donovan I've seen and I heard that he's had a lot of nagging injuries. Of course, it was both public and private too. I mean, it wasn't like that was a secret, but he has been nursing an injury for some time at the end of the MLS season. So maybe that's what I saw, was a kind of slower Landon Donovan, but it was kind of an injured Landon Donovan. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's back to 100% now, and we'll see the same kind of quick guy we used to see.
Wouldn't it be funny if he did put a goal away against Friedel?
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. Or Guzan,
I'd have a good laugh.
I mean, whenever Landon scores in the Premier League, as he did last time, it's just, it's just a reaffirmation for not only him, but a lot of American fans that have said he's a good player for a long time, despite what happened in Germany. All right. Jeff Cameron, big article as well in MLS and other places brought this up as well. Will Jeff Cameron get a fair shot at the United States men's national team from Jurgen Klinsmann? And I think it was interesting because the language Jeff used was, I'm just hoping for a fair shot. Because what you're saying when you're saying that is, if Jurgen Klinsmann is fair, he will give me a shot to come back on the team. But I think there's a lot of doubt there in his mind about whether or not he's going to get that shot.
Well, Cameron is definitely a player that a lot of people are asking for, between just to get a shot, even called up into camp. Cameron, you have Gonzo, even George John.
Yep.
I mean, these are players that people want to see in camp. They want to see him get their shot. I think Cameron had a stellar performance this past season. I think that he definitely deserves a shot.
Mm-hmm.
What I believe may be nagging in the back of his mind is he might see himself saying, "Hey, I'm a midfielder that's been placed back on this as a central defender. I may have had a great season, but perhaps Klinsmann sees that as a negative. I'm not necessarily a quote unquote defender. I'm a person filling in a role."
Yeah. Well, the thing is that in the past I might have said, "Well, hey, Jeff, if you want to make or assure yourself a spot on the United States men's national team, then why aren't you sniffing out or having your agents sniff out some time overseas? Because that almost used to guarantee you at least some time, as long as you were playing somewhere in Europe. I mean, it could even be Sweden or Norway or Denmark. It didn't matter, but it gave you a better chance. But when you have a guy like Tim Ream being called up, constantly, and listen, Jeff Cameron it's not like he's 32. He's 26 years old. That means World Cup time he'll be 29. That's fairly young for a center back. In fact, he should be hitting his prime right about then. And then the next World Cup, he would be 33. That's still not old for a center back. You can play that long. So I guess, if I were to give some advice to Cameron, would be start considering moving overseas to play because he's got the skills. He could play in the English Premier League for a team in the bottom 10 tomorrow. He could lace him up and play tomorrow and be better than a lot of the center backs I watch day in and weekend out in the English Premier League.
What's funny about this, the fact that he hasn't been called up, is he fits all of Klinsmann's criteria for center back in the system he wants to play. He wants the defensive line to be able to play out from the back, be able to pass, be comfortable with the ball. Here you have a center midfielder, or just a midfielder in general, playing some quality defense.
Mm-hmm.
And he's comfortable with the ball. He obviously, because he's able to play in more advanced positions.
Right.
It just seems like an obvious pick. I don't know why he's been snubbed this long. Maybe it's just because of how far into the playoffs that Houston got. Hopefully, come the Camp Cup pick, we'll actually see the players we're all asking to see. But with our center back being such a thin position right now, I mean, we are relying heavily on players like Ream, who is a quality defender. He's still young. He still needs time to develop. He's getting a lot of interest abroad. I just think that we have other options we need to take a look at right now, not for in the future.
Right.
We're also looking at Roscoe.
Yeah.
I've said a lot on that.
If you're going to look at him, you might as well look at Cameron.
Might as well.
I mean, I really don't see the damn difference here because Cameron gives you a lot of the things that Ream gives you. He's a good passer out of the backfield. But then, in a lot of ways, Cameron's also, in many ways, instinctually a better defender than Ream is at this point. Ream still has to develop some of those skills. Learn where to be and when to commit and when to tackle and when not to tackle. This is something Cameron knows already. So it's kind of a mystery. It continues because you got Omar Gonzalez and you have Cameron, and you mentioned John George earlier, right? Or George John?
George John, yeah, I was going to say.
I have the Beatles in my head for some reason. Anyhow, a lot of these guys are getting snubbed, and then there's some guys like Orozco and Ream who just continue to be called up time and time again, and you just have to wonder when that's going to end.
Well, you know what Cameron brings also, besides his control on the ball, his comfort with the ball, he also brings size.
Yeah.
Here you have a decently tall defender or center back that's comfortable with the ball. I think it should be an obvious pick, and I don't know why he hasn't been called up yet.
Yeah. Well, I think we're not going to keep our fingers crossed for him because we don't root for individual players, but I think if you're a United States men's national team fan, you have to root for Cameron to get that shot, and hopefully we'll see that down the road. How about the Edson Buddle thing? Dismissed by Ingolstadt early. The original reports coming out saying it was fitness related, but again, keep in mind that's translated from German, and that may not mean he's not training well. It may mean he's actually injured because the way things are translated from German to English, as my mom can attest when she did the translation for Yanks Abroad during the Chandler interviews, it's not tit for tat. I mean, you have to specifically figure out when you say fitness, what does that mean? So Edson just he may have a hammy. It could be an ankle. We don't know. So let's not jump the fitness gun. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and you have to imagine it has to be something like an injury because he's a leading scorer for his club. There's been reports saying how the manager praises him on his training ethics, and that's why he ended up getting a starting role for a number of games. He wouldn't have gone this long with the club if his training status is just poor.
Yeah,
how hard he trains, how hard he works.
Yeah,
if he practices as he plays, he busts his ass. There's no doubt about it. It has to be more of an injury issue than it has to be anything.
It just has to. I mean, I've never heard, listen, Edson Buddle has had times in his career where, he's put on a few pounds, but they've gone away. And he's usually in pretty good fitness. So I just don't see this being a fitness-related issue. I see it more as an injury, unless suddenly at the end of the season or nearing the holiday season, Edson Buddle started showing up at practice stoned and not ready to play, which I don't see that happening.